Good morning, everyone. I'm Lamont Gilchrist, www.L.G.Fitness-Messiah.com. My webpage, Lamont Gilchrist Natty on YouTube. Subscribe to my channel. So I talked about the gluteus maximus and the lower extremities of the body. You see, normally I'm sitting down, so I'm actually making a demonstration video. Today is Friday. We're going to get the components and get an understanding of how to properly perform the squat and the different areas of the leg that you can affect with your squat, and how you can fully develop the abducting muscles of your legs, and the quad and the posterior chain of your legs, how to get those things involved. There's a lot of different ways to squat. You can squat with a dumbbell in front of you, you can front squat, you can back squat. So there's a lot of different leverage points to squat. I'm going to, if you see my video, go watch my one-on-one workout video and tells you how to get into proper form. It talks about breathing and other things. And I don't like to skip through steps because they're very important. But I just want to talk about the squat as a movement in itself. As you see me facing you, and I guess this will probably be one of the better angles to see me from the side. So when you envision your body, your knees, when you bend, and your tibia and fibula and your femur is squatting, the squatting motion itself is the lowering of your hips with the weight, and then the raising of your hips with the weight, as opposed to the deadlifting is the raising of the hips with the weight or your back, and the lowering of your hips or weight or back with the weight. Now in the squat, how I like to imagine the best angle that I think that's the best in the squat position is your knee and tibia and fibula and your femur angle forms an angle. Forms an angle somewhat like this when you squat down. Now your spine should also probably be at your tibia, fibula, femur angle, so it looks like a spring if you ever seen a spring come up and down. At the bottom, which is very important, the further you lower your hips, the more you get into the muscle groups of your squat. So this right here, or this right here, or even this right here is not going to get you much into the muscle groups. You're not going to recruit a lot of neurotransmitter muscle fibers to perform that, and you're not going to get good leg development. Just the same thing in all professional sports, in rehab therapy, or any time that you are trying to strengthen yourself or get yourself back into shape after an injury. The first thing that you want to make sure that's happening is range of motion. The further range of motion you can move a joint or a body part or your body parts, the better athletic ability, the less injury, the less likelihood of getting injured, and the better development of the muscle fiber as a whole. These short ranges of motions on movements and stuff like that doesn't really get you into a lot of muscle fibers. There's a lot of things that you have to do, and then it doesn't strengthen the ligament, tendons, joints, and all the other stabilizing components around that muscle fiber. So you think of yourself as a spring when you're squatting. So the thought process on the squat, and I have these plates on the ground because if you have poor Achilles flexibility, you will put your heels on the back of these plates as you squat down to kind of counterbalance. Depending on where you place the bar on your back, you can see I got a nice little calcium lump on my back from squatting hundreds and hundreds of pounds and doing it thousands and thousands of times. Same thing like if you was wrestling and your ear was rubbing, it's that kind of like cauliflower type thing. So you can always tell someone who squats and don't use a pad on the back of their neck, because that's what happens with that bone. The bar rolls up on there. So with a low bar, your back flattens out. The bad problem with that is that it puts a lot of pressure on your erector spine muscles, and so you kind of flatten out and the bar gets a little forward. You want the bar kind of trying to go up in a straight path. If you're using a bar or whatever it is, you want it to try to stay in a straight path because of center of gravity. Anything that's getting too far forward is going to get heavier and off balance. Anything that's getting too far back is going to get heavier and off balance. So you have a center of gravity that's going to be somewhere in between, you know, maybe a half a foot or something like that, that you need that bar to stay in that path. And that's in most lifting things, just so that you're not leveraging or you're not going into ligaments, tendons, or having gravity work against you, especially if you're using heavy weights. Now, if you want gravity to work against you, fine. You can use gravity as a force in the development of your body. I always do. So let's look at the side angle. So let's talk about feet placement. If your feet should feel like they're underneath your armpit, but really you get into your jump position. That's in my workout one-on-one video. Depending on the biomechanics of your knees and feet, and if you're pigeon-toed, bow-legged, ultimately everyone who wants to work their whole total leg group will want to get to a slightly turned outward position where your heels, where you're making sort of like a V angle with your feet, so that your hips and your hip pointer and that your gluteus maximus, posterior chain, abducting muscles, and all those other muscles get incorporated into that movement, and your hips are able to slide too parallel below your knees without having an extra hamstring, calf, bouncing knee, patella tendon back behind there. And also by doing that angle, I'll show it from behind, you bring your glutes and your gluteus maximus and your butt into the squat, especially if you have good range of motion. It is a great gluteus maximus minimus abducting your whole body, developing muscle, and as a compound movement, make you a better athlete, make you more powerful, everything. But you have to have enough range of motion. I can turn my feet out, but if I'm going like this, I'm not going to be incorporating muscle fibers that many, because I don't have a good range of motion. Even right here, even it isn't real good a range of motion. Ultimately, on the squat, you want to try to get as low as you can. You want to try to get to it where your butt is at the bottom. And what happens with your butt, it goes like this, and it comes in, comes back, and the rest of your body comes straight up. If your butt goes back and around and loop up, you're going into your erector spine, you're flattening out, and you're losing somewhat of your posterior chain in that movement, because you're locking it out, and it becomes almost like a stiff leg squat type movement. And as you get heavier, center of gravity is going to wear, and it's going to wear on your back. I know some people that like to actually flatten out because you get an erector spine. Power lifters like to actually do that, and then they go hip high with a low bar. That's not my preference for developing good glutes and developing a good body. It is a pretty good technique and a really good technique for lifting big weight, but that's two different and some separate things. So once again, if you have bad mobility, make sure that you put your heels up on something as you're squatting. And you can see me in the bottom of my squat as you're squatting, so that your Achilles tendon doesn't become a hindrance in the whole movement. Practice squatting is to grab something like this, put your feet and practice the motion, lowering your butt till you get down here. This is actually how you stretch out too. Your knees travel out towards your feet, and I'm going to give you another quick tip. This is my trusty stick. You can take a stick or something like that, get into your squat movement, and squat down. And that's how far your knees should travel out towards your feet, that you don't push that over unless you know you're getting into the proper squatting positions. And you can practice like that. That lets you know that you're not getting too far forward, that you're sitting back and you're traveling straight up, so you can actually see the distance that your knees are traveling. That's another squatting tool, and you can use it. I actually put a stick in front, put my hand, and do the same thing. Then you see that your knees isn't traveling too far forward, that you isn't losing your posterior chain, that you are loading your posterior chain as you're lowering, and you're getting into the gluteus maximus, minimus, medius, semitendinosus, semimembranosus, bicep femur. All those posterior chain muscles, while also helping yourself with the pentana, gluteus, abductor magnus, longus, brevis, serratus, all the abducting muscles with the hip flexors, and all the muscles of the quads. I do offer personalized videos. If you want to work on your squatting, you can actually take a video, you can send it to me, and I actually do some evaluation, tell you, make some corrections to actually get you going in a proper biomechanic movements of whatever it is that you're doing. So you can contact me that way. Also, you know, if you got some specific things that you're trying to work on, I also offer some science and advice. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, and this will be posted to it when people send me questions or anything else like that. I try to make a video to accommodate it, because I'm pretty sure they're not the only persons with that particular question, to address the issue that they may be asking me. Remember, range of motion, slightly turn the feet out, and get down there. Use a stick, work on your mobility, flexibility. Use plates to raise up if you got tight Achilles. But ultimately, you want to get flexibility, range of motion, feet out work, so that you can work the whole leg. This is my how to squat tutorial. I hope this information helps. Thanks.